Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you all for coming. It's Good Friday, and I hope it is also a Good Friday for you all. My name's Hal Roth. I direct Contemplative Studies Concentration and Initiative here at Brown. We were established in 2014 and have graduated 27 students to this point. We train students both in the scientific study and the humanistic study and the artistic study of contemplative practices and contemplative experiences across culture and across time. And in the classroom, we have pioneered these very innovative critical first-person approaches in which we pair the study of particular texts from contemplative traditions with the practices that are embedded in or directly discussed in those texts. We feel that in doing that, students develop a much greater appreciation of the texts and the traditions from which they've emerged, and also have some direct personal benefit from learning the contemplative practices. They develop a skill set that stays with them perhaps long after the actual intellectual content of the course is passed. At least that's what students tell me. These courses, which contain meditation labs, is what we call them. I learned just today that we are not the only basically humanities courses in North America that have laboratory sections like science courses scheduled. Apparently there's a professor named Justin McDaniel at the University of Pennsylvania who thought he was pioneering this. But we're now in communication. Actually, he's going to come up here and visit next year. In these lab section courses, we allow students to learn the contemplative practices, learn the cognitive frameworks in which those practices are embedded. But unlike what you would do at a devoted contemplative practice center, like a monastery, a temple, a synagogue, a mosque, a retreat center, we do not expect, we do not ask, we do not demand that students believe in the veridicality. It's a fancy religious studies word for truthfulness, not truthiness, truthfulness of the cognitive framework. You try it out, you test it out, you question it. It's based kind of on an empirical exploration. But of course, we cannot duplicate the conditions in a contemplative practice center. So we're several steps removed in doing that. And it's also very important to understand how taking the practices out of that particular context affects them. And so as part of our kind of ongoing series of lectures and workshops and presentations, we have our speaker today, Dr. Misaki Matsubara, who is an abbot of the Butsumoji Temple in Chiba Prefecture and spent 5 years in very intensive study and practice in the Rinzai Zen tradition that he is going to be talking about. I would also like to mention to you that tomorrow and Sunday, tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., Dr. Matsubara will be leading Introduction to Zen, Rinzai Zen practice workshops in Pembroke 305, and there is still room to sign up for them. Just go to our website. And if you haven't been to the Contemplative Studies website, it's kind of a wonderful thing that we have there, because we have not only all of the things you expect at a website, the list of courses for a given semester and what it takes to become a concentrator, what are the concentration requirements. We have featured biographies of our concentrators. We have featured biographies of our faculty members. And we have recordings of the lectures really going back for a number of years that we have put up there. So if you've missed one and want to see it, or if you're just kind of curious about the people that we brought here, today's and this weekend's workshops bring it to 208, the number of events that Contemplative Studies has organized since we had our first talk here by Dr. Mishi Jia in January 2006. So if you'd like to go, and then we link you up with different contemplative practice centers all over the country, and a few all over the world. So please visit the Contemplative Studies site, and if you'd like, sign up on the listserv by clicking a little yellow button on the left side. I think that's how it works. So our speaker today, Misaki Matsubara, is an Osho, means he's a priest. He's a Zen priest and an abbot. It's a very significant status within the Rinzai Zen establishment in Japan. It's a relatively new temple in Chiba Prefecture, just south of Tokyo Bay, which has beautiful views of the city of Tokyo. And he spent quite a bit of time, as I said, 5 years in very hard, intense Zen training that he's going to be talking to you about today. So you really have we'll develop a sense from his talk of what traditional, he had a very traditional Rinzai Zen training. I mean, it's kind of similar to what the man he studied for his PhD, Hakuin, who was the great systematizer of modern Rinzai Zen, very similar to the type of practices that Hakuin established and actually probably practiced himself back in the 17th and 18th centuries. He, unlike most Rinzai Zen abbots or clerics, decided that he wanted to do academic study, and he ended up doing a PhD at Cornell University, specializing in Japanese religions and specializing in this very important figure, Hakuin Eikaku. He spends part of the year in Chiba Prefecture at his temple, part of the year at Cornell, where he's works in the chaplain's office and brings Zen practice to Ithaca, where Ithaca's a difficult place in the winter, so they really kind of need some Zen practice there. Kind of rains a lot. Actually, it's difficult the whole year round. It's kind of like Seattle. It's like the Seattle of central New York. He also then lives the rest of the year with his lovely wife and two incredible daughters in New York. And so it is with great personal pleasure that I ask you to join me today in welcoming our speaker, Misaki Matsubara.
First of all, does everyone have handouts? Hello, everyone. My name is Misaki Matsubara. Can you hear my voice? Yes. Thank you. First of all, Haru-sensei, thank you very much for wonderful introduction, and also thank you very much for giving me this precious opportunity to study Zen here at Brown, and also to share my ideas of Zen with you all. So this is a very, very important opportunity to what I have studied so far. And secondly, thank you very much, everyone, for joining my talk today. And hopefully you can join Saturday, Sunday meditation sessions as well. I know you are very busy in this time of year, this semester, but thank you very much for making time and then joining my talk. So as I told earlier, today I will use these handouts. Basically today I will talk about Japanese Zen Master Hakuin's, one of the important writings which is called Yasenkana. I will introduce later in my talk Yasenkana. But the precise reason why I use today this handout is I really want you to read Hakuin's sentences so closely so that even I show here Hakuin's Yasenkana, but if you have a handout with you, you can read Hakuin. You can understand Hakuin's ideas in your pace. So please have this one. So today's talk's title is Violence and Obsession, Self-Observed Meditation, Zen Sickness, and Insights of Zen Master Hakuin. I was born and grew up in a Zen temple. I had the opportunity to learn meditation and Zen life practices from my grandfather and my father, and later from my Zen masters at the Heirinji Monastery in Saitama Prefecture in Japan. During all of these experiences, I have always felt that meditation as a method of cultivation and the Zen way of living has been a real gift to my life. My everyday activities, from sweeping my house to raising my family, my relationships, and my dreams and intentions as both a Zen priest and a scholar of Japanese Buddhism, have all found a stability in meditation practice that has moved me deeply and made my life feel very deep and rich. I am thus grateful to the many teachers who have come before me and left such a well-lit path for me to follow. I am aware, however, that meditation practice and Zen training in particular requires not only good teachers and a disciplined mind, but a strong sense of caution. Strong sense of caution. It can't be physical exercise. Think about physical exercise. We can do bench press, but if we do too much, it is not productive. Rather than that, that exercise will damage our body. We need a break. We need a balance of exercise and also break. Meditation, as you know, is very powerful stuff and taken lightly by teachers or students, or entered into without respect for potency, can have disastrous consequences. This is something I try and impart to my meditation students in both the US and Japan, and remind myself each time I sit on a cushion or light a stick of incense. Here, I would like to discuss a previously disregarded aspect of the work of one of Rinzai Zen's leading figures. He left us clear messages about this very problem. He had a name for disregarding it, Zen sickness. Japanese Zen master Hakuin Ekaku, who lived from 1686 to 1769, is a seminal figure in the history of Japanese religion. In particular, he is widely known as a reviver or even de facto founder of the Rinzai Zen, which is currently monopolized by his lineage. The meditative practice on koan as a core discipline of the tradition is attributed to him and dominates this religious order today. All present-day Rinzai priests trace their religious heritage to Hakuin. Contemporary Japanese Rinzai Zen has been even called the Hakuin school. Our contemporary Rinzai Zen has been a tradition almost exclusively unconcerned with moral formulations and contemporary social issues. Instead, this school has been focused exclusively on the quest for deep religious experience, which is called Satori or Kensho. Hakuin's religious writings and his considerable production of brush paintings, in fact, are held up almost exclusively as examples of highly developed capacity for religious experience. Indeed, the previously dominant scholarship has been limited to 3 ways of regarding Hakuin. First, viewing Hakuin as a reviver or even founder of the tradition. Second, seeing him as a meditation master. Third, studying Hakuin as a talented artist and writer. All 3 are clearly correct. Hakuin is all of these things. But do we in fact take to heart the very clear and loud messages he left as his legacy about violence over zealousness in Zen practice? I do not think so. This is what I would like to discuss today. Given the fact that we observed the 250th anniversary of his death in 2017, it seems fitting to do so today. What did Hakuin do and say that we ignore today? I will offer my own triad of dimensions of Hakuin. First, he was deeply engaged in issues of social justice. Second, he talked about a sick obsession with meditation that neglects the human body's balance in meditation practice. Third, he talked at length about what in today's language we would describe as abuse of power in monasteries. Hakuin used his own experiences in his life as a model, not for what he did on a daily basis, but for the failures he experienced and the many changes he had to make. I think that Hakuin intended us to regard his failures and transformations as models, and not the day-to-day manic experiences he recorded as something to be emulated. He was a gifted and sensitive person, but that talent was not merely focused inward. He was deeply moved with compassion for what he saw around him. In Hakuin's autobiographical text, Yasenkanna, or in English, Idle Talk on a Night Boat, written in 1757, Hakuin wrote of his experiences of Zenbyo, or the Zen sickness, which he suffered from in his youth, as his meditation practice went from being a healthy quest for enlightenment to a sick obsession. Let's now turn to this text and ask a simple question. What did Hakuin mean by the term Zenbyo, or Zen sickness? It is unclear because he is intentionally vague about it. It has been proposed by scholars and physicians for the last decades that this malady was possibly either tuberculosis or some neurotic disorder, or something from both these causes. I am more, however, inclined to think that this incredible person, Hakuin, suffered from a self-induced neurotic breakdown. He suffered from a self-induced neurotic breakdown, but that the term was meant to encompass much, much more. Whatever this malady was, it is true that it disturbed his practice. Here is what Hakuin described of his own Zen training. Notice how he describes what on the surface looks like a Satori experience, but turns out to be something he later regards as an unstable delusion. As he sinks into illness. So now, please look at quotation number 1 from Yasenkanna. He was writing this when he was 71 years old. Especially in the last paragraph. he started to realize that his body condition is something strange. Finally, he found out that is called Zenbyo. Hakuin was both physically and mentally exhausted from the rigors of Zen training. And in this deluded state, he became anorexic and seriously ill. He describes the complete collapse of health. In the Yasenkana, and also his other writings as well, he describes going from master to master in the Zen tradition, asking for help. All say, work harder, sit longer. He finally goes to a mountain hermit outside the tradition. This is the key. Outside the tradition, named Hakyu, actually Pure Land sect. So the hermit Hakyu instructed Hakuin in some of the meditation techniques of inner contemplation, which is called in Japanese Naikan no Ho. Inner contemplation, or Naikan no Ho. The essence of these techniques emphasizes in the first place the practice of concentrating vital energy, let's say ki or chi, in the lower body in general, and more specifically, the tanden or cerebral field located below the navel. This is a secret technique of inner contemplation. The secret formula in the relation of inner contemplation to nourishing life is this. Hakyu said, please look at quotation number 2. This is what Hakuin heard from Hakyu about Naikan no Ho. Secret point of Naikan no Ho. Further, Hakyu tells, please look at quotation number 3. Hakyu said, Hakuin, you think this is from Taoist tradition, but actually this is Zen, according to Hakyu. Yasenkan has a lot of interesting descriptions Hakuin giving us in terms of his experience of Zenbyo, how to overcome his Zenbyo, and also secret meditation techniques. So it's nice to have his own text and then read closely. So moreover, the hermit Hakyu also teaches 2 techniques of the inner contemplation that keep the key energy depleted in the lower body and making one calm down. So please look at quotation number 4 and 5. And if you like one of these meditation techniques, actually you can use this. especially quotation number 4, it talks about susokan. Susokukan, so meditation method of counting our breathing. So when we inhale and exhale, 1. Then next inhalation and exhalation, 2. Like, can I demonstrate a little bit? Like one, in Japanese, 1 is hitotsu and 2 is futatsu. So, hito, So we are counting our breathing, 1 to 10. The Hakuin said 1 to 100, but it's hard to focus, obviously. So we can do 1 to 10 and going back to 1 and 1 to 10 again. I think personally more interesting technique is quotation number 5, which is called in Japanese Nanso no ho. Nanso no ho is a meditation method of Nanso, soft butter. Soft butter. You can read quotation number 5. Basically, they are saying is you can imagine you can put the butter on your head. Then you can slowly inhale and much slowly exhale, and then imagine the butter is getting melted so slowly from the top of the head to the lower body. So basically, it talks about how to make yourself relaxed. I try to introduce this Nanso no ho method of soft butter to my 2 daughters, 8 years old, 5 years old. I thought it works, but it didn't. Papa, do I have to bring butter? I thought you don't like butter. How can you put the butter on your head? Just this Hakuin talks about. So, but I think that we can understand Hakuin's point. We can put something on the top, and then that is going to melt it so that we can feel comfortable and relaxed. So far, Hakuin's recording of what he was taught also included this advice: hardly the kind of austerities that had brought him to collapse. Hakuin said, actually, again, please look at quotation number 6. Sunehan, he is in Japanese sotoba. Just wait. Sorry. Did you finish reading the quotation number 6? So, Hakuin goes on to describe in depth the methods the hermit taught him, Hakuyu taught him. The teachings ended with Hakuyu telling Hakuin that if he did these things, his skin would grow with health. These are hardly the teachings of body mortification. The Yasenkanna ends with Hakuin's notes describe how, after receiving these meditation techniques from the hermit, Hakuin started to practice them, which brought about a successful recovery from his malady over time. He added that he became very healthy even in his later life, and he became energetic not only in devoting himself to his everyday training, but also in leading the training of his students. What is relevant here for our purposes is that Hakuin did not regard all his early flashes of enlightenment as his healthy legacy. Rather, it was the practice of relaxation and careful breathing he learned later, after his collapse, that he sees as integral to a state of well-being. So, in this talk, I would ask that we focus not simply on the details of Hakuin's advice about breathing, but on the very clear shift this showed to focusing on actions that he regards as enhancing of the body and not detrimental to it. Let's look at how this experience, perhaps condensed into one encounter with a hermit as a literary device, caused a transformation in how Hakuin regarded his own students. It appears Hakuin was perhaps extending sickness to include abuses of power by teachers and Zen masters. In the preface of Yasenkanna, Hakuin begins by telling us that when, after 40 years, he returned to the place where he had once been a student and saw the monks at Shoinji, he was shocked. They had lost their regulation of their practices and were sick and haggard. In a moving passage, he recounts a great transformation. Please look at quotation number 7. Here, the master means Hakuin himself. He was the one who went from a spewer of venomous slobber to the worried mother. In short, he is describing his own realization that his method of training students took them from being healthy human beings to people walking close to death. And he regrets it. He regrets it and made a cloud descend, a cloud of transformation and maternal care. I would like to suggest that Hakuin here is suggesting that his own transformation is a needed corrective in Zen masters. Again, I argue that his own transformation here is a needed corrective in Zen masters. He was too harsh, and his students suffered. From this brief passage, I feel Hakuin was trying to flash a beam of light on violence and abuse of power among Zen masters. I would now ask you to indulge me while I turn from Hakuin and discuss how his experiences helped me as I underwent my own monastic training. Recalling my own experience in monastic settings, the three biggest enemies were: first, the lack of sleep, which was 5 hours on a regular daily schedule, but which was drastically cut to 3 hours, especially during a period of concentrated meditation period, which is called sesshin. Second, the pain of sitting with crossed legs in meditation. And third, the mental and physical exhaustion. The regulation of food was not a problem for me. During meditation time, while I searched for a state of self-absorption, I very often had illusions and delusions. For example, I experienced visual illusions such as seeing real objects appearing to move and seeing lights. Perceptual illusions such as feeling myself becoming a stone and not being able to move at all. Or oral illusions such as hearing the singing of evening cicadas. I had the delusion that, evening cicadas like an orchestra. Delusion is the easy part. When I had these illusory experiences, I had the delusion that I was already enlightened, or I was being enlightened. When I was 25 years old, and I was a third-year practitioner at the Heirinji Monastery, I developed serious meningitis. Possibly, the austerities had reduced my immune system. Honestly, I really don't remember what happened at that time. I don't remember being transported to the hospital or how I was examined in the initial stages there. The only thing I remember is that when I woke up, when I opened my eyes, I was on a small bed surrounded by white walls in a room. I was hospitalized for a total of 3 months and had to further take a rest at home for another 3 months after that. My parents, my friends, and my fellow practitioners all worried about my physical condition. They also wondered if I was going to die, or if I would have brain damage, or physical disabilities, at the very least. 6 months later, I returned to the monastery. I don't know why. One evening, I was sitting in the meditation hall by myself. All the windows and doors of the meditation hall were open. And it was like I was sitting in nature, together with nature. When I keenly sensed this togetherness with nature, it was in that moment that suddenly I was surrounded by the orchestra of evening cicadas, higurashi in Japanese, brought by a gentle breeze. It was in that moment that I was highly motivated to continue my monastic practice. I saw the point of sitting. The whole world seemed gentle and tender and kind, like that maternal energy described often by Hakuin, his writings. As I have continued my meditation practice and my work as a scholar of Zen Buddhism, I keep always in my mind my own 2 pillars of my practice. One pillar is the many transformations Hakuin went through, from a harsh master with a stick, stewing venomous slobber, Hakuin said, to being a kind mother, regarding his student with deep tenderness. This pillar reminds me at all times to be moving toward gentleness in my practice as a teacher. The other pillar is that moment comprised of cicadas and cool breeze, that sense that I am connected to everything. I am connected to everything. The Japanese Zen master Yamada Mumon put it this way, quote, I can tell by the coolness of the morning breeze that I am embraced by something great and vast. Again, I can tell by the coolness of the morning breeze that I am embraced by something great and vast. This second pillar keeps me listening for the tiny voices of insects and the gentle feel of breeze. These 2 pillars stand as a gate in my practice that protects me from that age-old malady that Hakuin rightly called Zen sickness, overzealousness and violence, masking as eagerness for enlightenment and strict observance. Towards the end of his life, Hakuin said that his real Zen practice started when he devoted himself to caring for others. I hope to follow the path makers he set in his writings of his many transformations. I am forever grateful to him for leaving such a well-lit path. If we only allow ourselves to see it. Thank you very much. So this is a meditation hall at the Heritage. I was just sitting here. I still remember. This is a toilet. This is the basket we put in every morning with the water. So that is the only water we can use for that day. And at that time, we had 23 people. So you have to share this water. So, do you have any questions? Yes?
The statue of eyes. Why are his eyes like that? Very intense, the light around it.
I think that, first of all, this was carved in 63 years after Hakuin passed away. I think 63, 67, something around 70 years after he passed away. So one thing they try to carve seriously, closely attention, the big question was what kind of image we can bring down to the next generations as a master of Hakuin, so that the disciples has to put the very sharp eyes. It's showing very seriousness, hard practice. But I understand that understanding of that his eyes, but at the same time, when I look at all the time, now I feel actually Hakuin's eyes are actually cute. Everyone, first glance, everyone said, "Oh, Hakuin is so serious, so tough." But that is the purpose, right? That is the purpose, how to create Hakuin's image as a statue. But when I look at Hakuin like this, wow, looks like my grandpa. It's very kind of round, big eyes. My daughter, 8 years old, Maya, said, Hakuin actually, Papa, so cute. But if we go back to the Heian or Kamakura period sculptures, let's say 11th century, 12th century, they are using crystal. So, but obviously, this one is not crystal, probably just glass. Yes. But we don't know the original artificial expressions, probably more goldish or more kind of colorful. So we can see here gold and dark red, but probably at that time it's more colorful maybe. Yes.
Please. So, Musacchio, what happened? I mean, obviously modern Zen practice in Japan, the experiences that you had and that I had, basically that message was ignored.
Yes.
I mean, there's an extremely severe practice and still in many ways. So, why? And then what do you think is the proper balance It can't be so lax that there's no structure. So where do you come down in terms of the balance?
To that question, I can give a bit similar experiences. One is that when I was at the Herinji, every twice a month we have takuhatsu. Takuhatsu is a practice of begging on the street. So we are begging. So everything, like anything we can receive, we receive it. Like money, food, water, sake, beer, strawberries, watermelon, whatever, we have to carry, but still we have to walk. That is actually easy part. It's not easy, but kind of easy part. The hardest part all the time at the takuhatsu practice is our lunchtime. Lunchtime, we are visiting temple's followers' house. So they will serve the big, huge lunch. Like how huge? Like tempura, unagi, sukiyaki, curry rice, beer, shochu, alcohol, sake, maybe whiskeys. And as a main dish, we can get the rice and miso soup and other dish as well. Obviously, we can't eat it. And then our rule, the monastic rule, is called kuiage. Kuiage literally means we have to eat up everything. Everything. But all the students do not eat so much. They will just touch the food. They will just touch the food and then just eat, and then, okay, you guys eat. So younger practitioners just sitting quietly like this. We never touch the food, because once we touch the food, we have to eat up everything. So we do not want to touch. Then the older students just eating and just, please eat this, please eat, just finish everything, just finish everything. And then the house follower who serves the big lunch, kindly giving us a lot of food because they think we usually do not eat so much. So please eat. And if we eat up everything, oh, you ate up already, so you must be so hungry, we will bring again. And I said, please do not bring. But sometimes, this is a really story. Kuiage is very, very hard. Sometimes we are going, just eating, without tasting, and then going to the bathroom and then just throw up. Or if we don't have time to go to the bathroom, we have a secret pocket here. So we can just go. I did like 4 years at the Herinji, and then at the fourth year, I told my older student, I think this is ridiculous. This is completely waste of food. It's nothing related to Zen practice. Rather than that, we should really cherish the food. We just get the kind mind with the person who cooks the food for us, just deeply appreciate that. And then we need to do is just say, thank you very much, we really appreciate your food, but sorry, I couldn't eat everything, so we can take home. We can just say that. But all the students said, no, we have never done this before. Now I said, then try do now. So he said, so Masaki, you try to change the tradition? But I said, but look, many people becoming so sick. When you come back from the takuhatsu, Junshok said, the abbot of the temple said, we have to sit meditation, but there is no way to sit. They completely drunk. They threw up. How dare they can sit? That is exactly we have to think about, and that is exactly we have to change. I think I said to him, that is exactly what we have misunderstood as Zen practice. We can't say just seriousness, seriousness, seriousness. But we have to think about what does it really mean by that. So, but still a lot of struggles. But the second point of your question, then, so how we can make the clear divider if we can make the practice kind of soften, then people think that is not Zen practice anymore. But yes or no? My answer is yes or no about that, because most important thing is the teacher or older student has to know the limit of the practitioners. Everyone has a limit. Everyone. And then everyone has a limit in a different situation, different level. The teacher or older student who is responsible for the younger student must know the limits of the practitioners. Then, in my sense, honestly, I really don't mind which one is so hard to practice, which one is so soften, if I keeping the closely monitoring the limit of the people, then we are doing best. I think that is the practice. So, but still we have a lot of concerns. And then interesting is two of you here in front seat came to my temple as well. And we went to Kenchoji in Kamakura, right? And Engakuji. They are at that time, almost 5 years ago, 3 years ago?
2017, January. Just
2 years ago. Wow, time flies. But at that time, I was negotiator. Yes, Engakuji Monastery and Kenchoji Monastery try to show their hardness. This is Zen. Zen must be the Japanese uniqueness. We have to show Japanese Zen. This is Zen. But I said, I don't think they can do this. They can afford this. But they said, no. When we start meditation, we start to hit the keisaku. I said, that is not Zen. Please, Kenchoji-san, please stop doing that. Otherwise, student from Brown just will hate the meditation. Right? Right? So I was in the middle. And then that is the moment I realized that they have completely misunderstood what Zen should be. So since then, I really appreciate a group of Brown. I create a new program to bring the monks from Engakuji and Kenchoji to Cornell to study and how world is looking at many different types of Zen ideas, so that their idea of Zen is like this, right? But they can open their ideas. So now the Kenchoji is, 2 years ago, just their Zen is equal with hitting with keisaku. Chin, kachi, kachi. No. So I think that we have to think about from now on, though, from the future, many people in Japan, including me, insider of the tradition, think that Zen is a uniquely Japanese culture product, but not anymore. Not. It's more, it's not just an Asian product, it's a world product. So we have to open eyes towards the outside. That is a kind of the way I'm working on how to solve that struggles. Yes.
So one of the things that I'm struck by, and thank you so much for this, is the gender element. You know, that Hakuin kind of went from this very masculine, militaristic, I would say not even militaristic, martial point of view, very hard, to this transformation through utter illness, to the transformation to becoming a loving mother. And so in that, you know, as I'm studying more earlier text from Buddhist text from the Theravada, you know, the thing that really strikes me is the gender element, and in a way that what more and more I'm beginning to think is that much of the traditions that are very masculine are in some ways a way of civilizing young men, but in I think it's essential element coming back to the softness. If we get in textually back closer to what the Buddha actually was saying, and I think Hakuin discovered, and so I'm wondering about your thoughts about that.
Thank you. My thought is actually many ways. What we know as a Rinzai Zen is definitely one invented tradition. So it doesn't mean, it means that our current tradition have a lot of things we can learn by going back to Hakuin's teachings. Our tradition, even they said this is the Hakuin school, but our tradition is just selectively looking at some of the Hakuin's aspects only. In fact, Hakuin, in terms of gender issues, he is kind of a Kensho evidence, approval, enlightenment approval to 8 years old girl. I think 14, 16 years old girl as well. And definitely 9 years boy and also 16 years old boy as well. If he is giving as a approval of enlightenment, he is giving that kind of cane, but the head of the cane is a dragon. I hope I have a picture here. But that is a kind of approval evidence, enlightenment he is giving for those who pass the final koan practice. So among those, there are young girls and also young ladies as well. But now, that's not going to happen. Definitely, we are forgetting that part. Right? In fact, we have a nunnery monastery for women practitioners. Women practitioners now is, I think, 37 people throughout Japan. They have 6 to 8 nunneries. But my question is, they can study for years at the nunneries, but what happened after that? Myoshinji headquarters or Nanzenji headquarters or Daitokuji headquarters, Shokuji headquarters, whatever, do they really care about them after the monastic life? Many people going to the monastery, women, but there is no way to go. And then they will say, oh, Matsubara-san, we have a temples. Okay, what kind of temples? Temple followers almost zero, which means no financial resource. It's very remote area, and the woman by herself. How it is possible? So now I'm working on with the headquarters. We have to think about not just creating and creating the women practitioners. More than that, how we can take care of them after they finish the monastic life.
I also think about integrating, their expertise in a way. I think what's so impressive about Hakuin in what the quotes that you've given is he becomes like the
Mother.
mature, he becomes the mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so, women are grounded in that. And so in that training, women have so much to offer.
Like maternal mind. It's like a compassion. Yeah.
Hello, thank you. Thank you very much for coming and speaking and sharing. I am visiting Providence, and to come here, I rode a bus from the western part of the town where there's a great castle called the Armory, and I passed a high school, and then I passed a college, I think called Rhode Island College, and written on the window of the high school, and also in a different set of words, but the same thought written on the window of this college, were messages about how achievement really starts, or perhaps the greatest achievement is when one starts to help others. Two very similar messages on two places of learning, as I wrote here, and I'm so surprised and interested to hear that this is like the architectural piece that joins the two pillars of your practice, and which you say that Hakuin also found. Please, can you share more reflections now about this this achievement of helping others?
I have again, I have families, and we are living together, and obviously every day is so mess. We have to pick up the girls and drop off the girls, and we have to take them to Chinese and Japanese, and we have to make dinner and lunch box. We have to put them into the bus and then going to bed. I obviously had a hard time to take care of them, control them. And sometimes I'm getting angry, upset, sometimes so sad, sometimes I'm not happy. But what they are teaching me is always, actually they are my text. If I'm not happy, or if I'm getting upset, or if I'm becoming sad, just try to be nicer to them. If I'm not happy, then I'm always try to make my daughters happier. So that I don't know why this happened. My feeling is overcome. And I'm naturally becoming happy as well. Oh, they are smiling. So if I feel depressed or sad, it's, let's say, negative emotions, then before, a long time ago, I tried to take care of myself. But Hakuin told me that, why don't you take care of others? Then that makes you happier. That is interesting way to learn myself. So it's not just taking care of others. It's not try to find a way to how I can be helpful for others. But more than that, first, what kind of emotion do I have? Then, if I am happy, just share my happiness to others. If I'm not happier, then not try to take care of yourself. Rather than that, just try to care for others. Then that process make myself happier. And also, other thing is, I think again, Brown student experienced, we are cooking together and we are eating together. And then we are very limited food. We have just a bowl of rice and bowl of soup and bowl of pickles. And then inside is always limited. And then I'm sitting here, and then other 16 students are sitting after me. Always in front of me, I have lot of food, lot of rice, lot of miso soup, lot of pickles. Then, if I take whatever I like without thinking others, idea is that if I take some, someone cannot take that some. So I'm always thinking, if I take this portion of rice, probably other 15 students can take their own food as well, evenly. If we are thinking only ourselves, probably super hungry and then just forgetting others and I want to eat, and then they will take a lot of soup and pickles or food or rice. But if we take a lot, other people cannot take that portion. So that practice is really good way to care for others as well. And also interesting thing is, do you like cooking? Cooking? Just try to cook for others. Just try to cook for others. Then we can learn so many things. Maybe for example, today is cold. If it is very cold today, we do not want to give a very cold miso soup or cold food, right? But if it is a very hot day, we do not give a very hot dish neither. We are always thinking about others, other conditions. If in the middle of the August, it's very sweaty, muggy day, then we might think maybe we should put a little bit more salt than yesterday, because very hot. We need salt, right? When we cut the vegetables, if we cut potato like this size, it's hard to bite. Further, if we can just carve the edge of the potatoes so that it is easy to eat. We can think about so many ways to care for others. So cooking is good, and also eating is good. And also, if you feel like a negative feeling, not try to take care of yourself, but try to take care of others with positive thought, positive emotions. Then that makes you positive as well.
Matsubara Sensei, thank you for giving us so many things to think about. There's very rich talk, and there's many things I hope I can ask you later, but I'm going to try to ask you about whether or not there is something called compassion sickness. So the talk you gave us was about violence and Zen sickness as a problem, for which the antidote is a kind of softness, like butter melting. And this resonates also with the life of the Buddha, in which the Buddha seeks all of the austerities for 6 years, starving himself, until taking a middle path, where a young woman offers him some food. So we have these sort of several stories in which a very masculine, hard form of practice has to be balanced
Yes.
by something that's softer, feminine, compassionate. So this is one particular kind of spiritual ailment, this kind of rigidity or this hard seeking. Is there another kind of spiritual ailment? For example, can one have too much compassion? I'm thinking, for example, of people who, whether they're social workers or nurses, and they have burnout, this kind of care fatigue. I'm thinking of other people who maybe are so loose in their love, in the sense that they then don't have patterns to their day, they don't have any rules, and that they maybe then are not helping other people. So if that was someone's illness, should then they have more hardness? In other words, does the cure depend on the sickness, or should everybody just be more grandmotherly? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Jason's comment makes me think a lot of things. Thank you very much. Do you know, how do you say in English, Nanden Daizokyo? It's a Daizokyo.
The Pali canon.
Pali canon, just Pali canon.
The Theravada canon.
There is that canon. There is a story that the Buddha met the boy who playing the guitar. Have you heard this story? No. And then the boy said, "Hi Buddha." I mean, he didn't say Buddha. That idea. "Hi Buddha, why you guys are sitting all the time? Is that boring? Or sometimes do you want to stand up or walking or running around? Why you sit all the time? What is the point of sitting? What is the benefit of sitting all the time? And what is the best way to sit? That is my question." And then Buddha said to the boy, "So, I see you have a guitar, so you are a guitarist. Why don't you play the guitar now?" And then, it's violin, right? Guitar. Then Buddha asked the boy, "So, how do you make the best sound? If you make the guitar strings very tense, that makes good sound?" And the boy said, "No." So, if the strings are too loose, does it make good sound? The boy said, "Of course no." So what is the best way to create the best sound? That is a balanced tension there. Same as meditation. not too hard, not too loose, not too tense, not too soften. Always we have to look for the balance. That is one part of the story. But at the same time, like Jason-san mentioned that there is another problem in being softened. Then I will say, I think we have to see the edge. We have to see the limit of our body. Everything, when we are studying, think about, we have exam. I'm so excited. I like this topic. I don't need to sleep 3 days. But that is not good situation, right? It might be a high motivation, but result would be not necessarily positive. We have to have sleep, right? We have to eat, we have to sleep, then we have to study. If we study all the time, it seems because we are always worried about grade or exams or study situation, and we are always under a lot of pressure. We try to study and we try to push ourselves so much, but like I said, like a physical exercise, we have to take a break. Otherwise, we can't get the productive result. In this sense, we need a balanced practice, but also we need to know the edge. We need to know the limit of ourselves. We try to give a lot of compassion. That's great. That's great. But you don't want to be burned out. You have to see, you have to know your limitation. Then you can take care of others. Think about, I want to help this person. 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 We are human. We are not perfect. We have limitations. We can't do everything. But we try to be perfect. We'll be sick. But we know, if we know the limit ourselves, oh, Maya, I can help this one, but Nina, I'm sorry, I can't do this. But I will introduce someone who can help you. Da, 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 da. So I think in either part, we need to know the limit of the things.
Please join me in thanking Misaki-san.
Thank you very much.